Hey guys, tonight we start in a humid morning haze just before the sun peeks over the rice paddies. The air is heavy with the scent of wet straw and livestock. Chickens rustle in the thatched coop beside your home, a one-room hut with mud-packed walls and a roof made of reed bundles tied together by hand. You sleep on a bamboo mat. There's no mattress. There's no pillow. Just a tightly woven mat and a sheet if you're lucky. Your day begins long before the rooster calls. You stir awake to the soft shuffle of your grandmother grinding millet in a stone mortar. You sit up, legs stiff. You slept in the same clothes you wore yesterday. You'll wear them again today. Changing garments daily is a fantasy for nobles and ghost stories. You glance toward the corner where last night's pot of rice water sits, fermented overnight, slightly sour, slightly warm. You sip. It is your breakfast. Outside, the path between huts is slick with mud and chicken droppings. It rained last night. Again. You step gingerly barefoot to the lean-to latrine, just a pit lined with dry stalks and buzzing flies. There is no privacy. There is no smell you'll forget. You wipe with bundled leaves and walk back without fanfare. Everyone else is already up. Everyone else is already working. The rats scurry boldly across your threshold as you lift the lid on the earthenware pot that stores the rice. You see the familiar chew marks. You sigh. 1/3 is gone. Again. You can't afford a cat. You set the pot over the stove and blow on the ashes from last night. Smoke then tiny flames. You place dry twigs and old corn husks, hoping they'll catch quickly. No matches, no kerosene, just breath and patience. You slice a turnip, your only vegetable this morning, and boil it with thin porridge. It is gray, it is plain, but it is warm. You eat with your hands. Chopsticks are in the homes of artisans or families that make ink. Your fingers are stained from the earth, and the roots under your nails tell more about your diet than any recipe scroll. Your father is already gone to the fields. He left before dawn. Your older brother is with him. You are next. Before you leave, you fetch water. You carry 2 wooden buckets dangling from a shoulder pole, your spine already familiar with the weight. The well is shared. The rope frays a little more each day. When it breaks, it may take a week to fix. Until then, someone will climb in. You pass the neighbor's yard. His wife is washing yesterday's clay bowls with sand and rainwater. She nods. You nod back. She is 30. She looks 60. You reach the edge of the village where a wide trench drains waste into the duck pond. It smells like every illness you've ever had. The ducks don't mind. Along the path, children chase each other with sticks. One boy trips and lands face first in the mud. No one cries. No one laughs. They just keep playing. You walk through a gate built from bundled reeds and old rope. It marks the outer border of your village. Past this point, the world belongs to the taxman, the army, and the weather. And the rice. You reach the edge of the paddies where neat rows of shallow dikes divide the flooded fields. You roll up your trousers already torn at the hem and step into the water. It is ankle deep, then knee deep, then chest deep in places where the field gave way. You don't flinch at the water snakes. You no longer scream at the leeches. You spend the next 3 hours pulling weeds from between the seedlings. The sun climbs. The fog lifts. The heat begins. Your back aches by mid-morning. Your arms itch from mosquito bites. Your stomach growls. You brought no lunch. The midday gong from the distant monastery echoes across the plain. That's when you know it's noon. No watch, no clock. Just the beat of bronze on silence. You squat at the edge of the field. You share a sip of rice water with your brother. He hands you a pickled radish wrapped in a leaf. It's sour and warm. You chew slowly. A flock of cranes passes overhead. You don't look up. You've seen them 1,000 times. Your cousin arrives late, wiping his brow. He claims he was tending to his sick mother. No one believes him. He's just afraid of the snakes. He works slower than the rest. Your uncle says he'll never marry. The rest of the afternoon is more planting, more bending, more wading through soft, sucking mud. By dusk, your legs cramp. Your fingers blister. You've pulled more weeds than you can count, and you'll do the same tomorrow. When you finally wade out of the fields, your skin is puckered. Your clothes are soaked. You stink like rice rot and fish bones. Back in the village, smoke rises from every home. You follow it to your door. Your mother is stirring a pot of millet porridge. There's a thin layer of oil on top. A luxury. She hands you a wooden bowl. You blow on it. You sip. It is too hot. It burns your tongue. You say nothing. You keep sipping. After dinner, you squat outside with your father. He sharpens a sickle by candlelight. The blade is chipped. You'll use it anyway. No one can afford a new one. Your younger sister hums while washing her doll, a stick wrapped in old silk. She doesn't speak much. She lost her voice after last winter's fever. The village elder walks past. He nods. He always nods. You're not sure if he knows your name. You slip inside just after the stars appear. You lie back on your bamboo mat. You pull the reed blanket over your chest. Your legs remain uncovered. The night is warm. A rat scurries across the roof beams. You hear it nibble the thatch. You sigh. You drift off to sleep, already knowing that tomorrow will begin before the rooster wakes. Historians still argue whether peasant life in southern Imperial China was more physically grueling than in the north, but the sheer constancy of labor in wet rice agriculture makes for an easy case. A lesser-known but recorded fact: some rural villages used carved wooden coins to track work hours and food rations passed down between families like heirlooms. You wake to the same gray horizon you slept under. The air is still damp, still sticky. Your feet ache before you even stand. The ground is cold beneath your toes, pressed flat from generations walking the same packed dirt. You rub your eyes and stretch your arms. The bones in your shoulders crack faintly, too much bending yesterday, not enough food. You rise. Swallow a sip of yesterday's water and tie your sash around your waist. Your shirt is stiff from drying overnight on a bamboo peg. It smells faintly of smoke, sweat, and pond scum. You wear it anyway. You only own 2. You pick up the pole. 2 buckets hang from it, iron rings worn smooth by years of friction. One of the buckets leaks slightly from a crack patched with hardened clay. You don't worry about it. You only need enough to last the walk. The sun has not yet breached the mountain ridges, but already the sky is turning pale. Morning will come fast. You head out. The road is not paved. It's not even level. It's a trampled ribbon of mud stones and dry weeds. Each step is uneven. Each mile takes longer than it should. Your walk to the next village is 6 miles one way. You do it barefoot. Your feet sink slightly into the morning mud. Cool water seeps up between your toes. You sidestep a fresh cow patty. You avoid the ditch that last week swallowed a goat. The smell of the river follows you most of the way. You pass the same stone markers, flat slabs, etched with faded words marking the border between land overseen by different families. You don't know what the words say. You were never taught to read. A cart trundles past, pulled by a haggard ox. Its driver, a man older than your father, grunts without looking at you. He carries firewood all bound with rope he spun himself. His son walks behind the cart barefoot like you holding a stick for steering. You nod. They do not nod back. As the sun lifts over the hills, its light catches the mist rising off the river. You cross the same crude footbridge you crossed last week. It groans under your weight. A few of the bamboo slats are missing. You don't look down. Halfway across, you pause and listen. A heron shrieks from a marshy bank. Somewhere upstream, you hear a splash. You do not investigate. You keep walking. You pass a shrine. It is dedicated to a forgotten local deity, some spirit of the wind or the hill. It is decorated with burned joss sticks and cracked tiles. You bow once out of habit. You don't know the name of the god. But your grandmother said never to skip the bow. Your path narrows. Trees close in. Bamboo stalks on either side clatter in the breeze like hollow bones. Their leaves filter the morning light into long green shadows across your arms. You can't see far ahead. You follow the narrow bends by memory. By mid-morning, you emerge from the bamboo and reach the edge of another village. You know no one here by name. Still, you recognize faces. The women boiling roots by the riverbank. The boys dragging dead branches. The three-legged dog. You head to your assigned patch of leased field. It's less fertile than your village's land, but it's your duty now. Your uncle traded rights to this parcel last year in exchange for help after the locusts came. You were the help. You enter the paddy. The water is colder here, shaded longer by the hillside. Your calves cramp as you wade. Your skin breaks out in goosebumps, then adjusts. You begin pulling rice seedlings from their beds to transplant them. You grip each one delicately, roots dangling like strands of hair. You push them into the new rows one after the other, pacing your breath to your motions. By noon, the sun bakes your neck. You have no hat. Your shirt is soaked through. Your shoulders blister. You eat nothing. You drink from the bucket. You keep going. The labor is monotonous but endless. Your thoughts drift. You count your steps between rows. You whisper rhymes from your childhood to stay awake. You recall a story about a man who fell asleep in the field and drowned face first in the mud. You keep working. In the afternoon, a village elder approaches from the road. He watches you for a long time. You don't look up. You don't speak. When he finally walks away, you notice he left an offering of dried beans at the edge of the field. You do not touch them. Around sunset, you feel your fingers go numb. Your knees shake. Your mouth tastes like rust. You know it's time to go. The walk back is slower, much slower. The air is cooler, but your shirt clings to you. Your feet are raw blistered. You step carefully, avoiding the sharp pebbles that sliced you this morning. You pass the shrine again. Someone has replaced the incense. The wind has scattered ash over the footpath. You step through it. As the sky darkens, the bridge looms again. You don't pause this time. You're too tired to worry about the missing slats. You just walk faster. Back on the road home, fireflies begin to flicker. The trees creak. You hear distant drums. Another village celebrating a festival, perhaps. You are too tired to care. You make it back to your hut just after nightfall. Your mother rubs your shoulders with boiled camphor leaves. The scent burns your nose. The heat burns your skin. You wince. She pats your back and says nothing. Your dinner is waiting. A small clay bowl of boiled cabbage and one salted fish. You eat slowly. Your hands tremble. Your brother is already asleep. Your sister is staring into the fire holding her stick doll. Outside, the night bugs sing in waves. Inside, the thatch roof drips faintly near the corner. You lie back down on your mat. You stare up at the rafters. You hear the rats again. They sound bolder tonight. Your eyes close before you realize it. Historians still argue whether long-distance labor walking in Imperial China was more common in the South due to its terrain and dispersed villages, or simply a result of wider family land obligations. A lesser-known tidbit: many field workers used songs with exactly 100 characters as time markers for each planting cycle. Few of those songs survive. You wake before the sun again. Your back still aches from the field, and the soles of your feet are tender. But you rise anyway. There is no choice. Today is collection day. The tax collector comes only once a season, but his arrival is known days in advance. Word travels from village to village through whispers, warnings, and hurried repairs. People mend fences, patch roofs, sweep roads, not out of respect, out of fear. You sit cross-legged and eat rice porridge again, this time thinner than before. There was no new grain this week. You count the grains on your tongue without meaning to. Outside, the men gather their dues, bundles of millet, dried fish, and scraps of cloth. Some carry baskets of beans. Others bring firewood or bundles of thatch. Tax can be paid in goods if coin is scarce. Coin is always scarce. You pick up your own share, a woven basket filled with sorghum. You're not sure it's enough. You hope it is. The air is unusually still as you join the line at the center of the village. The taxman is late. No one speaks. A dog whines and is quickly silenced. Then he arrives. Two men in uniform walk first. Their sashes are red. Their boots are tall. They say nothing. Behind them, the collector rides a gray mule. His hat is round and stiff, and his eyes are hidden under the brim. He does not smile. He dismounts slowly and looks around. His face is calm. Too calm. The village elder bows low and steps forward. He presents a written scroll folded neatly and sealed. It lists the names of every household and what each owes. The collector doesn't read it. He hands it to his assistant and begins walking. He doesn't knock. He doesn't wait. He steps inside one hut, then the next. He lifts lids, peers inside baskets, taps the walls. He points once at a boy and says something about arrears. No one moves. The boy is taken by the guards, led toward the cart without a word. His mother begins to cry. The collector doesn't pause. You stand in line. Your knees are locked. Your mouth is dry. When he reaches you, he takes the basket without comment. He lifts it, weighs it in his palm. He turns to his assistant, who nods. You exhale quietly. Then he asks about labor. You knew this might come. In addition to food or coin, some taxes are paid through corvée mandatory labor for the state. A ditch to be dug, a road to be patched, a wall to be reinforced. Your name was selected this season. You will leave in the morning. You will be gone for 30 days. You walk home in silence. Your mother already knows by the time you arrive. She doesn't ask questions. She packs dried millet into a cloth and ties it to a stick. Your sister hides behind the door. Your brother won't meet your eyes. That night you sleep poorly. You hear distant thunder. You dream of falling rocks and broken bridges. You wake before dawn. The corvée supervisor meets you at the edge of the village with 3 other men. One is your cousin. One is a stranger. One is blind in one eye. You march together. For hours. Through hills. Past flooded ravines. Along crumbling ridges. The path is narrow and worn. You follow the sound of footsteps in front of you because the fog is thick and low. At midday, you arrive at the site. It is a road, or what used to be one. A landslide last season buried half the path in stone and earth. Now your job is to dig it out. No tools are provided. You bring your own shovel, or borrow one, or use your hands. You work from noon until dusk, then sleep under a tree. The mosquitoes are endless. Each day is the same. Dig, lift, haul, repeat. Your hands blister, then bleed, then callous. You eat once per day. Rice and salted radish, sometimes just rice. Once a man collapses near you. The supervisor orders his body dragged into the shade. By nightfall, it's gone. No one asks how. By the 10th day, your voice is hoarse from dust. Your nose bleeds at random. You dream of eating. Not food, just the act of eating. On the 15th day, your cousin sprains his ankle. He begs to stop. The supervisor allows it. But only if he agrees to stay an extra 10 days later. He does. You continue. By the 22nd day, a shipment of iron tools arrives. They are few. You use one for an hour before it's taken away. You go back to lifting stones with both arms. A passing inspector observes you. He writes something on a bamboo slip. He says nothing. He leaves. On the 30th day, you are released. Your hands tremble. Your legs shake. Your back is bent at an angle that may never straighten again. The walk home takes longer than you remember. When you return, your mother cries. Quietly. Your sister hugs your waist. Your brother hands you water. You sit. You drink. You stare into the fire for a long time. Historians still argue whether corvée labor was a net tax burden or a form of social structure reinforcement. Either way, the effects were real. One quirky detail from records: some laborers sharpened their fingernails into tiny wedges for easier clawing of earth, earning the nickname stone weasels in some regions. The next morning begins like all the others, heavy with fog and the dull ache in your joints. But this morning there's something else in the air. A quiet ripple moves through the village, a current of tension just beneath the surface. The magistrate is coming. He rarely visits, maybe once every few years, but when he does, everything changes. People sweep their yards 3 times. Chickens are tethered. Children are scrubbed. The old banners are re-inked with new characters. No one tells you what to do. You already know. The magistrate rides under a ceremonial canopy carried by 6 men. His face is powdered pale, his robe is dyed deep blue, and his belt bears a heavy seal carved from jade. His entourage includes scribes, guards, and a man whose only job is to loudly announce his title at every stop. He dismounts slowly. His boots do not touch the dirt. A padded stool is placed beneath him. The villagers kneel. You kneel. Your knees press into sharp gravel. You feel the sting. You don't shift. He walks through the central path. He carries a perfumed fan. His eyes flick left and right. He points once to a boy with messy hair. A woman rushes over and drags the boy out of sight. The magistrate says nothing. His arrival means 2 things: inspection and judgment. You stand in formation while he receives tribute. The village elder hands him scrolls, gifts, preserved fruit, and a lacquer box with coins. The magistrate nods. His lips do not move. Afterward, he orders inspections. He walks through homes accompanied by scribes who write on long scrolls with black ink. They note the number of bowls, the condition of walls, even the presence of dust on lintels. You follow silently. Your home is third. Your mother kneels beside your father. You bow deeply and keep your gaze low. He enters. He lifts the curtain. He touches your sleeping mat. He taps your water jug. Then he leaves. Outside, a small bench is prepared in the village square. The magistrate sits. Now come the grievances. Villagers step forward one by one. Disputes over land, over marriage, over livestock. A missing chicken. A borrowed hoe never returned. A whispered insult. Each case is read aloud by a scribe. The magistrate listens unmoving. Then he speaks. His voice is calm. His words are final. One man is fined 3 bolts of hemp. Another is ordered to publicly apologize and sweep the temple steps for 7 days. Then comes a more serious case. A woman accuses her neighbor of stealing rice during the last flood. She claims to have seen him inside her storeroom. The accused denies it. The magistrate orders the man to kneel. Then, without comment, he signals to his guards. A bamboo rod is brought forward. The man receives 10 strikes to the back of his thighs. Sharp cracks echo through the square. The man bites his lip until blood stains his chin. No one speaks. No one moves. The magistrate writes a symbol on a slip of wood and places it in the elder's hands. A mark of warning. You exhale. Quietly. The inspection continues. Your neighbor's pig pen is deemed unsanitary. A fine is levied. 2 baskets of dried mushrooms. Immediate. Your cousin's house is declared overcrowded. He is ordered to construct a 2nd room. He bows. He has no tools. Midday heat settles over the square, but no one dares sit. The magistrate is still working. Then, unexpectedly, he pauses. He notices your sister's doll, the stick wrapped in faded silk. He lifts it. He asks where it came from. Your mother explains hesitantly that it was made from scraps. The silk came from an old banner. The magistrate frowns. Silk is restricted. Peasants may not own it, not even discarded fragments. He stands. His fan closes with a snap. You feel your stomach tighten. Then he waves it off. Just a warning, he says. No punishment. Your sister hides behind your mother. She will not play with the doll again. Later that day, the magistrate departs. His canopy sways gently as the bearers march away. The guards follow. The scribes roll up their scrolls. The stool is packed. The fan disappears. The village breathes again. You're assigned to sweep the path he walked. You carry a straw broom. The dirt is clean, but you sweep anyway. It's expected. After sunset, the elders gather. They read aloud the notes left behind, decrees, warnings, orders. Some are fair, some are strange. All are binding. You return home exhausted. That night, as you lie on your mat, you hear your parents whisper. They talk about moving, about joining a cousin 2 villages north, about new land, about fewer inspections. You stare at the roof. You count the thatch rows. You know nothing will change. Historians still argue whether magistrates served more as instruments of imperial order or as localized enforcers of village balance. Their dual role remains a subject of debate. A curious practice noted in some southern prefectures' magistrates were offered polished gourd vessels instead of coin as tokens of respect, often filled with dried plum wine or sweet herbs. The morning begins later than usual. You stir to the muffled sound of water sloshing against wood. Your brother is outside already carrying buckets from the communal well. You rub your eyes and stretch your arms. Your muscles ache from sweeping the path yesterday. The magistrate's visit lingers in your mind, but today brings a different kind of discomfort. It is washing day. In your village, bathing is not a daily ritual. It is rare, reserved, shared. The effort required is too high. Water must be drawn. Firewood must be collected. A private bath. Not a possibility. Instead, the river is the bathhouse and ash is your only soap. You step outside and breathe in the scent of wet soil, wood smoke, and cooking millet. The air is thick and damp. You roll up your sleeves and gather your things. A cloth to scrub with, a small bowl, an old shirt. You walk toward the river, passing other villagers along the way. Women with bundles of laundry, boys with wooden buckets. One man carries a sack of turnips slung over his back. He nods. You nod back. You always nod. The path to the river cuts through low grass and tall weeds. Dragonflies dance in the air. A flock of geese honks in the distance. You swat at a fly on your neck. Miss. Try again. The river is wide but shallow. Smooth stones line the banks. The current is slow, gentle. The water is brownish, tinged by soil, but clear enough to see your toes when you step in. Already there are others. A woman scrubs her baby with handfuls of wet ash. An old man combs lice from his beard with a carved stick. 2 boys splash water at each other laughing. Their mother scolds them without looking up. You find a space near a large rock. You place your bowl on the stone and roll your trousers to your knees. The water is cold. It seeps up your legs in slow pulses. You inhale sharply, then begin. You reach down and grab a handful of gritty ash from the communal jar someone has placed near the bank. The ash comes from burnt rice stalks. It smells faintly smoky, like old fire and damp bark. You rub it between your palms, then onto your arms, your chest, your neck. The ash scratches. It sticks. It slides. But it cleans. You dunk your head under water. The cold bites your scalp. You emerge dripping, blind. You blink the river out of your eyes. You hear frogs chirping from the opposite bank. You scrub your shirt in the water, beat it against a rock. Watch the dirt rise in cloudy swirls. You scrub again. Nearby, a woman plucks leeches from her ankle. She flicks them onto the stones with a practiced motion. No alarm, no drama. A group of girls laughs behind you. They're brushing each other's hair with pine needles tied together by string. One of them offers you a pine-scented bundle. You shake your head. She shrugs. Downstream, a dog wades in. He laps water and chases minnows. Someone throws a stick. He ignores it. An elderly man squats knee-deep in water. He hums a tune, repeating one phrase over and over. His hands tremble. His clothes are patched beyond patching. But he sings. After an hour, you feel the chill deep in your bones. Your skin has gone numb in places. You pour one last bowl of water over your head and step out. You sit on a flat rock and dry off in the sun. A breeze moves through the trees, lifting the scent of wet bodies and river mud. Your skin is cleaner, but your fingers are wrinkled and pink. You change into your dry shirt. It sticks slightly from dampness. You don't mind. You gather your things and begin walking back. Along the way, you pass the shrine again. Someone has hung a string of garlic and red paper charms. The wind rattles them softly. At home, your mother inspects your hair. She checks behind your ears. She nods, says nothing. You eat lunch, boiled greens, and leftover porridge. You chew slowly. The grains stick in your teeth. Your tongue scrapes them away. Your sister asks if you saw any turtles. You shake your head. Later, your father asks if the leech bites are bad. You lift your pant leg. 4 small red circles. He nods. You'll live. By nightfall, the village is quieter. Washing days always take energy. The fire is small tonight. You watch the flames flicker across the walls. You listen to the distant croak of frogs. Your body is tired, but it's a different kind of tired. Less heavy, less aching. You lie down on your mat. Your skin still smells faintly of ash and riverweed. You fall asleep before the rats stir. Historians still argue whether the practice of ash-based washing originated purely from necessity or held ritualistic significance in early southern provinces. What is known ash was considered purifying in some Taoist sects, especially when mixed with rainwater. A fringe custom in one coastal region involved scrubbing with crushed clamshells believed to improve luck in fishing. The next morning arrives with a thick mist rolling through the village, clinging low to the ground. The sun is barely a suggestion in the sky. You hear coughing wet, sharp, and close. It comes from the house next door. You step outside and see your neighbor's boy crouched near their doorway, his thin chest heaving with effort. His face is pale. His lips are cracked. He spits, and the ground stains red. You glance at your mother. She nods toward the path. You already know what to do. You make your way toward the village healer. He lives at the edge of the rice paddies in a house built mostly from sticks and tar-coated paper. Red strings hang from the doorway. A faded drawing of a tiger is pasted above the lintel, meant to ward off demons. You knock gently. A few moments later, the door creaks open. The healer stands there barefoot, wearing a long robe that was once blue, now closer to gray. His beard is short and patchy. His eyes are clouded with age, but they blink sharply. He doesn't speak. He motions for you to follow. Inside, the air smells like dried herbs, smoke, and damp wood. Dozens of jars line the walls, some filled with powders, others with twigs, dried insects, and thin scrolls. One shelf holds skull fragments. Another displays snake skins coiled in bundles. A small rooster sits in a bamboo cage near the hearth, eyeing you. The healer asks what you saw. You describe the boy's cough, the color of the spit, the wheezing. He nods. He has seen this before. He pulls down a jar containing what looks like ground bark. He places 2 pinches into a cloth sachet. Then another powder. Then a pinch of powdered bone. You don't ask what kind. He also takes a thin root from a drawer and snaps it clean in 2. He places it beside the sachet. Last, he unties the rooster. The healer holds the bird firmly. He closes his eyes, then chants softly, rhythmically, tapping the rooster's breastbone with one knuckle. The bird does not struggle. After a minute, he wraps the sachet, the root, and a strip of red cloth together. He hands them to you. Boil the sachet, he says. Let the boy breathe the steam. Burn the root near his bed. Tie the cloth around his wrist. Leave the rooster outside the house, facing north. You nod. You take the items, thank him with a bow, and leave quickly. The rooster is tucked under your arm, warm and silent. Back at the neighbor's home, the boy's mother receives the items without question. She sets water to boil. You help build a small fire under the eaves, keeping the wind off the pot. The boy lies on a woven mat, eyes closed. His breathing is shallow. The steam from the pot begins to rise. You place the red cloth around his wrist. The mother burns the root. It crackles and releases a bitter smoke that curls into the corners of the room. The rooster is placed just outside, facing north. It settles onto its claws and closes its eyes. You leave quietly. That evening, you eat plain rice and sit by the fire. Your sister asks if the boy will live. You don't answer. 2 days later, he begins to sit up. The cough is softer. The red in his spit fades. His voice is hoarse, but he speaks again. You return to the healer to give thanks. This time he smiles. He accepts a small pouch of dried mushrooms as payment. He adds it to his shelf without a word. On your way out, you notice something strange. An entire wall covered with cloth squares, each dyed a different shade. Some are dark green, some brown. One is deep purple. You ask what they mean. The healer says they are illness records. Each color a condition. Each square a patient. If a patient dies, the square is burned. He gestures to a fire pit in the corner. You stare a moment longer, then you leave. Later that week, your brother scrapes his arm on a sharpened branch. The wound festers. You consider visiting the healer again, but your mother says no. This time she boils vinegar and packs the wound with garlic. It works. Not all healing needs chance. But still, when your head aches at night, you wonder about the powders, the jars, the red cloth, the rooster's eyes. Historians still argue whether village healers in Imperial China functioned as medical authorities or spiritual intermediaries or both. Their practices were never standardized. One peculiar recorded fact: in certain regions, doctors charged patients only if they recovered. If they died, the healer offered incense to the family and accepted no fee. The late summer heat is thick. The air does not move. You sweat even when you are still. Inside your hut, the walls seem to pulse with warmth. The fire pit has not been used in days. No one wants heat right now. Your cousin arrives before noon carrying a small wooden case tied shut with string. He wears his best shirt, still patched but clean. His face is drawn with exhaustion. His eyes hold something else. Panic, maybe, or dread. He is preparing for the imperial examination. You watch him from the doorway. He spreads a scroll across your family's table, brushing dust from its surface. The characters on the paper are dark and crowded, written in vertical columns. You recognize none of them. He recites aloud, long passages, rhythmic cadences, phrases about virtue, filial piety, harmony between ruler and subject. His voice drones like the buzzing of late-season bees. He's been preparing for years. The examination system, he once told you, is the only legal path to ascend beyond your birth. If you are born a peasant, the exam is the rope dangling from the heavens. But the climb is steep. Most never reach the top. He memorizes hundreds of pages. He copies classics by candlelight. The 4 books. The 5 classics. His fingers are stained with ink. His nails bitten short. He recites again. This time it's a verse by Mencius explaining how hardship makes the noble man stronger. You wonder if that includes sleeping 4 hours a night and eating nothing but dry millet. You ask him if it's worth it. He does not answer. He simply sharpens his brush and continues writing. Later he tells you the examination will be held next month in the district city, 2 days away by foot. He will carry all he owns on his back: a mat, a blanket, dried beans, and a single change of clothes. The exam lasts 3 days. He will be locked in a small cell with only a writing desk, a water jug, and a chamber pot. No talking. No rest. No help. He must write essays on Confucian thought, compose poetry, and analyze ancient government policies. Any error, a stroke out of place, a missed character means failure. He has already failed twice. But some men keep trying into their 60s. You ask how many pass. He shrugs. 1 out of 100, maybe. Then he pauses. Of those, maybe 1 in 100 passes the next round. You try to understand the math. You stop trying. That evening you sit with him by the fire. He speaks slowly now. No recitations. Just memories. He tells you about his first test. He got lost halfway through his argument. Started a sentence, then forgot where it was going. His hands shook. His ink spilled. The examiner sighed. The second time he made it through all the essays. But his calligraphy was sloppy, his spacing uneven, his paper had wrinkles. That alone can lower your ranking. Now he hopes for a score high enough to be sent to the capital. The final round is held in the emperor's palace. The ultimate dream to become a jinshi, a scholar official. He tells you about one man years ago who made it. He was from a village like yours. He wore shoes made of straw. He passed all 3 rounds. The emperor himself gave him a robe of silk. Now he manages flood control for an entire province. Your cousin looks at you, says nothing, just smiles tiredly. That night, you hear him practicing softly through the wall, his voice hoarse, the cadence uneven. Still, he doesn't stop. In the morning, he packs his scrolls, his inkstone, his dried beans. He ties everything into a cloth bundle and bows to your father. Then, to you. He walks away barefoot. You watch him shrink down the path until the mist swallows him. Your mother sighs. Your father shakes his head. No one says the word, but it's clear he probably won't pass. Historians still argue whether the examination system truly offered social mobility or simply reinforced elite values in the guise of merit. One fascinating footnote: during the Tang Dynasty, some exam cells were so small that test takers had to write standing up. A rare discovery in Sichuan revealed carved graffiti from failed candidates, poems etched in despair now preserved in museum vaults. The days after your cousin's departure pass quietly, almost dully, until one afternoon is pierced by shouts. A commotion begins near the center of the village. You leave your work in the field and hurry toward the noise. Others are already there, women, elders, children clustering around the well. At the center, 2 men struggle. One is your neighbor's oldest son. The other is a man you don't recognize. The stranger is yelling, gripping a small cloth pouch. The accusation: theft. The contents of the pouch: 2 copper coins, a folded scrap of cloth, and a dried plum. The value: little. The consequence: possibly everything. The village elder arrives breathless. He separates. The men listens to both squints in silence, then calls for the constable. You've never seen the constable act quickly, but he's here in under an hour. He carries a bamboo rod across his back and wears a sleeveless vest embroidered with the character for law. He listens once, then again. He searches the accused. He finds the pouch. He frowns. He does not ask further questions. He announces the punishment: 10 strikes. Everyone understands. No trial, no appeal. The process is faster than thought. The young man kneels. He shakes not from fear, but from cold anger. He says he was given the pouch. Says the stranger dropped it. Says he's been framed. The constable ignores him. 2 men hold the boy's arms. He is bent forward. The rod is brought down. Once, twice, 3 times. The thwack of bamboo on flesh is sharp, even and quick. There is no ceremony, just execution of duty. By the 6th strike, the boy begins to grunt. By the 8th, he cries out. By the 10th, he is silent. His back is red, swollen, the skin already splitting along the edges. The constable steps away. The crowd disperses without a word. You linger. The boy stays kneeling for a long time. He doesn't move. His brother helps him to his feet. They walk away slowly. That night, you help your father patch a hole in the roof. You don't talk about what happened. You don't need to. But your sister does. She asks why stealing a plum deserves blood. You don't know how to explain balance. Punishment is public for a reason. Pain makes memory stick. A village without order is a field without walls. Anyone could come and harvest at night. Later, your mother tells you about an old man from her childhood flogged for refusing a tax collector entry. He limped for the rest of his life, never spoke above a whisper again. She remembers the bruises, still dreams about them. Some say the punishment teaches virtue. Others say it teaches obedience. You wonder if there's a difference. 2 days later, you see the boy again. His posture is crooked. His eyes are glassy. He does not return your nod. The constable walks past, slow and easy, his rod now tied behind his back with red string. It's meant to ward off resentment. Later that week, another incident, this time a woman accused of selling spoiled rice cakes. A child became sick, vomiting for hours. The family reported her. She is brought to the square. But this time, the constable only speaks. He warns. He waves his rod once slowly. No blows are given. No apology demanded. The woman bows repeatedly, then runs home. The crowd disperses again. Punishment is unpredictable. You ask your father why the boy was beaten and the woman spared. He says the boy had no father present to speak for him. You remember that. Historians still argue whether physical punishment in village law maintained peace or merely suppressed dissent. Bamboo flogging was common, but other punishments, such as wearing heavy wooden collars or forced kneeling in hot sun, varied regionally. An unusual fact in some areas, men carved their own flogging rods in advance, believing a self-made rod might lessen the severity. Whether true or not, the act gave them a moment of control in a system built on hierarchy. The moon is high, casting long silver beams across your village's rooftops. You wake to whispers behind the reed wall of your family's sleeping room. Your mother and father speak in low tones. You only catch fragments: 3 pigs, 3rd daughter, good match. You already know what they're discussing. Your sister is 12. Marriage is not a choice, it's an arrangement. A decision formed from timing, livestock, reputation, and weather. Love is never part of it. Consent is assumed, not asked. At breakfast, no one speaks of it. Your sister eats quietly, chewing turnip slices slowly. Her eyes stay down. She already knows too. Later, you're asked to accompany your father to the next village. You know why. A man there has expressed interest. He's 35. A widower with land and 2 surviving children. He needs a new wife to manage his household. You walk beside your father in silence. The dirt road curves through rice paddies and groves of bamboo. It is humid and still. A dragonfly lands on your sleeve. You do not brush it away. When you arrive, the village elder hosts the meeting. Tea is served. Formal words are exchanged. The man enters. He is broad-shouldered with a pockmarked face and stained teeth. His tunic is neat. His voice is slow. He offers 3 pigs and a bolt of raw cotton as bride price. Your father asks about the man's work, his fields, his roof. He nods, measuring each word carefully. No one asks about kindness. No one asks about joy. The deal is made. The wedding will be next month. After the flood season ends, you walk home slower than before. Your father carries a sack of dried peanuts, given as a gesture of respect. He seems satisfied. You say nothing. When your sister is told, she says only, "Yes, father." Then she returns to washing the rice pot. Preparations begin the next day. A red sash is sewn, an old veil is cleaned, neighbors gather dried flowers. Your mother burns incense daily at the family altar, asking for smooth passage and no storms. Your sister is given time off from fieldwork. Instead, she weaves. The same motion over and over. Thread, shuttle, thread again. She hums as she works, but the tune is flat. On the wedding morning, the sky is cloudless. The bride's face is painted. Her hair is coiled tightly and fastened with pins made of bone and wood. The red sash wraps around her waist twice. She rides a cart pulled by a mule. Drums beat once. Twice. No more. The groom waits beneath a faded canopy. He wears a new tunic freshly dyed. The ceremony is short. She bows to him, then to his parents, then to the heavens. A chicken is killed. Its blood is sprinkled near the door. Its feet are boiled for broth. That night, your sister sleeps in a house you've never entered, with a man she barely spoke to, in a bed built for utility, not comfort. You return home to a hut that now feels emptier. The silence stretches longer between your parents. Your mother stares at the fire and rubs her hands together even when they are clean. Your father counts the pigs. Later, a neighbor whispers about the groom's temper, how his first wife walked with a limp. No one says this aloud. The bride is already gone. You see her once again a few weeks later drawing water at the river. Her face is thinner. Her arms carry more muscle. You wave. She does not wave back. Historians still argue whether marriage arrangements in Imperial China were purely transactional, or if families sought affection where possible. But documents show clearly daughters were often bartered for goods or land claims, especially after poor harvests. A lesser-known fact, in some regions, girls were married to symbolic ghost husbands, deceased sons, so ancestral lines could continue, and bride prices could still circulate among clans. The dry season begins. The mud hardens. The air shifts. Sunlight clings longer to the rooftops, casting your shadow twice as far as it did a month ago. The rice fields glisten less, the canals narrow. Still, the work continues. One afternoon, while gathering reeds near the road, you hear bells. Not temple bells, not funeral bells. Smaller, sharper, tied to the necks of horses. You look up. A caravan is approaching. Silk merchants. 5 mules, 3 guards, 2 servants. One master seated beneath a portable canopy painted with cloud patterns. The fabric glows in the sun, threads of crimson gold and pale green woven so finely it seems to float. You stand on the edge of the road, head bowed. So do others. No one blocks the path. No one speaks unless spoken to. The merchant looks straight ahead. His clothes are unlike anything you've seen. His sleeves are wide. His boots reach his knees. His belt buckle glints like polished jade. Even his hat seems stiff with importance. As they pass, one servant drops a scrap of cloth accidentally or not. You're not sure. It's silk, pale blue, uncut, flawless. You look down at it. Then look around. No one moves. You know the law. Peasants may not wear silk, may not own it, may not even possess pieces of it no matter how small. Silk is for the upper classes, officials, scholars, merchants with licenses. Anyone else is warned, fined, beaten, or worse. You pick up the cloth. You do not pocket it. You hold it with both hands. You walk to the road and lay it gently on a stone, where the caravan might see it on their return. Then you leave. At home, you say nothing. But later, your sister, now returned briefly to visit your mother, laughs when you tell her. Not a loud laugh, not joy, just a soft breath of disbelief. She says the merchant wouldn't have cared. He probably throws scraps away every day. You don't answer. You remember the shine of the thread in sunlight, how your own shirt is patched with hemp and bark fiber, how your sandals are made of straw in the weeks after you hear of another caravan. It passed through a neighboring village. A young boy picked up a dropped ribbon. He was caught showing it to friends. A constable was nearby. The boy was fined. His parents had no coin, so they surrendered a goat. You wonder how many goats are traded for threads each year. The laws are clear. Only nobles may wear red silk. Only officials may wear robes with cranes embroidered on the back. Only those with rank may dye their sleeves black with indigo imported from the south. And only the emperor may wear yellow, bright yellow, rich, saturated, gold-like yellow. You've never seen it. Few have. They say the dye is rare, expensive, treated with incense before weaving, dyed in barrels for weeks until it reaches the right depth, reserved only for robes in the Forbidden City. Even the magistrate, powerful as he is, wears blue. In your village, color is function. Browns for field work, grays for temple visits, pale green for marriage, and plain white for death. You own one set of clothes, washed, mended, re-worn. A tear at the hem is normal. A missing knot expected. One time your cousin returned from a market trip with a red thread caught on his sleeve. You burned it before anyone else saw. Even color can be dangerous. Some years during inspection season, officials measure the width of sleeves. Too wide, and you're accused of impersonating status. Too narrow, and you're accused of disrespect. One woman in your village was warned for wearing embroidered shoes gifted to her by a visiting relative. She didn't know the rules. She learned quickly. So when you see fabric now, bright, soft, floating in the breeze, you feel only distance. It is not for you. It was never meant to be. You return to your reed gathering. Your hands are scratched and raw from pulling stalks. The tips of your fingers sting where the reeds sliced them. But you work on. Later, while washing your cuts in the river, you see a piece of cloth caught on a branch. Not silk, just cotton, faded, probably lost by a traveler. Still, you leave it alone. You've had enough fabric for one season. Historians still argue whether sumptuary laws in Imperial China were strictly enforced in rural areas or mostly symbolic. But multiple edicts from the Tang through the Qing dynasty forbid commoners from owning silk garments, even fragments. A strange footnote from a court record in 1723 describes a farmer who was executed not for wearing silk, but for weaving it without a license. His loom was confiscated and buried with him as a warning. The winds change. They come from the west now, dry and sharp, rustling through brittle rice stalks and whispering warnings you've heard before. The sky takes on a yellow tinge. At night, the moon seems farther away. Harvest was poor. You gather the rice late. The paddies yielded less than expected. The grain is thin. The husks split too easily. Your father says it was the lack of rain. Your mother says it was the early insects. The truth doesn't matter. You have less food than you need. The thatch roof has started to sag near the back wall. Your brother patches it with bundled reeds. It leaks anyway. You shift your sleeping mat to avoid the drip. By the second week, the porridge is thinner. You add boiled leaves, then turnip skins, then nothing. A neighbor loses a goat. It simply collapses in the field. They bury it that same night without ceremony. You hear coughing again from the same direction as before. A different child now, this one younger. At night, the fires burn low. The oil is nearly gone. You sit in darkness, listening to the distant croaking of frogs, until even they go silent. Then come the rains. Not the soft, familiar kind. These rains roar. Sheets of water batter the rooftops, turning paths to rivers and rivers to lakes. The dikes collapse. The canals overflow. Rice sacks are lifted away in the current. Your neighbor's house floods. They climb onto the roof and watch their cooking pots float downstream. You spend a night on raised boards. In the morning, the pig pen is empty. One wall of your hut has collapsed. The clay cracked and gave way under the weight of the water. You rebuild it with palm fibers, straw, and mud, the same materials that failed before. You do not have better. The flood leaves behind layers of muck, dead fish, and broken baskets. Children dig through the silt for lost spoons. You find a sandal that's not yours. Then, lightning. The wind howls one evening as you sit near the fire pit. Sparks leap from the embers. One lands on a loose mat. Another jumps to the roof. The flames move faster than thought. Your family grabs what they can, blankets, bowls, a water jug. You throw dirt. You shout. The roof collapses. Neighbors come running. Buckets pass hand to hand. You slap the ground with palm fronds, your arms sore and shaking. By morning, what remains is scorched earth and a pile of blackened timber. You sit with your back against a fence post, watching smoke rise. The air stinks of wet ash and charred wood. Your hands are blistered. Your feet are bare. The elder walks past and places a gourd of water near your knee. He does not speak. That night, you sleep beneath the stars, wrapped in a borrowed blanket. The stars are distant, cold, too bright. Days later, you rebuild again. You share space with your uncle's family until your walls are upright. Everyone sleeps side by side, heads facing different directions. The silence is louder than speech. Your mother weeps once, not from hunger or pain, from exhaustion. You look away. A week later, a man from 2 villages south arrives with a cart. He trades roof tiles for preserved fish. Your family trades nothing. You have nothing left. So you mend with reeds again. The wind picks up. The rain slows. But now food is scarcer than ever. You scrape the bottom of the rice pot. Boil the skins from sweet potatoes. chew sugarcane bark and spit the pulp into the fire. You do not complain. Everyone understands. Historians still argue whether environmental disasters like floods and famine were seen by villagers as divine punishment or natural rhythm. Either way, disaster was routine. One peculiar but recorded ritual involved tying handwritten prayers to floating gourds and sending them downstream, hoping the river gods would return mercy with the next tide. The worst of the rains pass. The sky dries into a pale sheet. Still the hunger lingers. Still the village is quieter than usual. But there's one place where voices continue steady, low, familiar. The temples. You walk there today. Not for prayer exactly, not because you expect anything to change, but because it's what's always done. The path winds uphill. Stone steps cracked from time and moss growth. You know each one. At the top is the small brick temple, 3 rooms wide with a wooden bell frame in front and a courtyard swept clean of leaves. Inside, the air smells of soot and sandalwood. At the altar stands the god of the stove. Yes, the stove. He watches over meals, firewood, and boiling pots. His clay statue is painted with red cheeks and thin eyebrows. A rice bowl sits in front of him with 3 burned joss sticks. Your mother once told you the stove god reports on the household every year. He goes up to the heavens and tells the Jade Emperor how clean your chimney was, how kind your words were. Whether your rice was shared or hoarded, you bow. Light another joss stick. Whisper a line you learned as a child, nothing profound, just a wish for fewer rats and 1 extra bowl of rice. In the side chamber is a statue of the river spirit. Her hair is long, her face is weathered. A clay fish lies at her feet. You remember a time when the village tied paper boats with candles and sent them downstream. They say the brighter the flame, the more likely your wish will travel far. Someone else is already kneeling there. A woman. You do not disturb her. Outside, a shrine under a tree houses the road god protector of travelers and oxen. His altar is smaller, cruder. A broken roof tile leans against one side to shelter it from rain. Even the gods need help here. On your way home, you stop at your family's own spirit shelf. It's tucked into a corner above eye level. 3 incense sticks stand in a bowl of rice. A faded paper with ancestral names hangs beside it. You don't know all the names. You bow anyway. Your grandmother once said that forgetting their names means forgetting your roots. But you were a child when she died. No one remembers the full list. Still, you press your hands together. Whisper their names, the few you know. Light 1 stick. The smoke rises in a slow spiral. Later that night, you see your sister home again, briefly tying a red thread around her wrist. You ask why. She says it's for protection. From spirits. From sickness. From silence. The next morning, you see someone painting symbols on the village gate with white clay. Protection again. One character is for peace. Another for wind. Another is smeared before it dries. The symbols won't hold the rain back. They won't fill the granary. But no one questions them. Some people carry pouches of peach pits. Some hang garlic above their doors. Some whisper at wells. All of it matters. All of it doesn't. The temple bell rings once at dusk. A single chime. Not for ceremony, just to remind you it's still there. You hear it while sitting by the fire pit, now dry and used again. The bell fades. Your mother adds another twig. The flames flicker. She mutters a prayer under her breath. Something about light. Something about food. The god of the stove listens. Or doesn't. But still, the rice boils. Historians still argue whether folk religious practices in rural Imperial China were more syncretic than superstitious. The blending of Buddhism, Taoism, and local spirit worship created layers of meaning. A lesser-known tradition, some villagers offered roasted peanuts to the god of failed harvests, believing that acknowledging failure would invite success in the next season. The sun rises behind thin clouds, casting a dull silver light across the village. You stretch, stand, and prepare for another quiet day, sweeping the path, checking the traps, feeding what few chickens remain. Then someone murmurs it. A courier has arrived from the capital. He carries news, not goods, letters tied in tight bundles, orders from the magistrate, decrees stamped with crimson ink, and stories. Not stories like you know them, no rice spirit tales, no river bride myths. These are rumors wrapped in silk about war, taxes, titles, and faces you've never seen. The emperor is building another hall, they say, in the Forbidden City. Gold roof, carved beams, rare stones from the west. Thousands of laborers drafted, hundreds dead. But the stones shine in the sun like fire. You don't know what the Forbidden City looks like. No one does. It's far. Hidden. Not meant for eyes like yours. The courier stays only an hour, drinks water, eats dried beans. Then he rides on. But his words remain. A boy asks what the emperor looks like. His grandmother shakes her head. You realize no one in your village has ever seen an image of him. No painting, no carving, not even a coin with his face. His name is written in records, whispered at festivals, cried out during punishments, but never spoken directly. You were taught not to. To speak the emperor's name aloud is to challenge the heavens, to invite thunder, to risk disappearance. Even temple prayers refer to him indirectly. The heavenly face, the ruler beneath the sky, the dragon soul. You ask your father if he believes the emperor knows your village exists. He shrugs. Maybe, maybe not. The emperor knows what the magistrates tell him. The magistrates know what their scribes write. Scribes write what they hear, and they rarely listen long. But when the emperor sneezes, everyone holds their breath. Last year, a tax edict arrived doubling grain dues in your province. No explanation. Just a seal. A rumor followed something about a fire in the royal stables. Whether the two events are related is unclear. Historians still argue whether such edicts were directly issued by the emperor or filtered through layers of bureaucracy until intention was lost. One thing is certain, the weight of his authority presses down like stone even if his face remains unseen. You try to picture him. You imagine long robes, a wide collar, a golden hat with dangling beads, shoes that never touch dust. You imagine his throne raised so high you would faint just looking up. You hear he speaks rarely, eats slowly, sleeps on embroidered cushions, spends hours staring at calligraphy. He breathes the same air, but not your air. Your brother says he once heard of a man who was summoned to the capital to deliver a tribute of goose eggs. He walked for weeks barefoot, carrying them wrapped in hay. When he arrived, an official took the eggs. The emperor never saw him. He walked home with a scroll that said, "Accepted." You believe it. Your sister says the emperor's shadow is so long it bends the roads. That evening, the elders gather in the square. They unroll the courier's documents. Read aloud the proclamations. None are surprising. A seasonal grain request, a census deadline, a reminder to clean waterways before flood season. At the bottom of one scroll is a name, not the emperor's, a minister. You've seen the name before. No one reacts. The emperor is still invisible, still present, still untouchable. You look at the rice in your bowl. You wonder if it's ever passed through his hands. Probably not. But he decides how much you owe, when, in what form, in what, how to carry it, where to deliver it. He does not need to see you to command you. He never has. The moon rises again. You lie on your mat, eyes open, trying to imagine a face you've been taught never to picture. And failing. Historians still argue whether common villagers in Imperial China truly revered the emperor or feared the system more than the man. Regardless, his image was protected by law, often absent from daily life. One forgotten custom during rare public processions, some towns forced residents to kneel facing away as the emperor passed, so his face remained myth even among his subjects. You rise early the next morning to the rhythmic tap of chisels striking stone. It echoes through the village like a heartbeat, steady, cold, and hollow. You follow the sound. Near the temple, masons are carving names into a tall slab of granite. The stone is streaked with water stains, its surface mottled in gray. A thin line of moss clings to the base. You've passed it many times, but never thought much of it. Today, it's being updated. The slab lists names of officials who once governed your district. Magistrates, administrators, record keepers. Each line begins with honorifics and ends with the years of service. All are dead. The chiseling continues. A new name is being added. Last year's magistrate. The one who ordered the stove inspections. The one who fined your neighbor for raising a fence too high. Your brother says the stone will outlive all of them. Probably outlive you too. You believe it. In your village, the bureaucracy is the only thing that never dies. People come and go. Crops rise and fall. But the records remain. Scrolls tucked into clay jars. Bamboo slips stored in the temple loft. Ledgers tied with red string. Even your family name appears somewhere, probably on the grain tax rolls updated each season. You've never seen them, but the elder says your household was first registered 3 generations ago. No one remembers who wrote it down. You return home to find your father squatting near the hearth, reading a notice pinned to a plank of wood. It's from the district clerk. A reminder: next month the Corvée labor roster will be reviewed. Names chosen must report within 3 days. The ink is already fading. Still, the notice is official. Even a smudged seal carries weight. That evening, a tax inspector visits. He wears simple robes but carries a ledger bound in black cloth. He doesn't look up when he speaks. He asks how many pigs your household owns. You say 2. Your father nods. The inspector marks a box. He asks how much rice you harvested. Your mother answers. He does not respond. He dips his brush again, writes in silence. You glance at the ledger. The handwriting is flawless. Square, even characters. No stray strokes. The inspector stands, thanks no one, and leaves. Later, your brother whispers a joke. If the emperor dies, the scrolls will still go on feeding themselves. You smile barely. You've heard stories of entire villages relocated because of a miswritten name. One family was taxed twice because two scribes recorded them on separate lists. The mistake was never corrected. They simply paid both. You've seen names cross through generations, fathers dying, sons replacing them on the rolls without ceremony. Sometimes even before the burial. Names do not belong to people anymore. People belong to names. Your cousin says in the city the records are even older. There are rooms full of nothing but names. Slips of bamboo stacked like grain sacks. Clerks who memorize ledgers like poetry. He says some officials have never touched soil. Still, they decide when your ditch gets repaired, or doesn't. Once during a drought, your village petitioned for canal access. The response came 6 months later after the harvest failed. It arrived in a scroll no one could read. The seal was correct, though. No one argued. In the temple courtyard, the stone carvers finish for the day. They pack their tools and cover the slab with a woven cloth. Only the wet chisel marks remain visible, catching the light like fresh cuts. You stand quietly. The newest name will dry overnight. Then it will harden. Historians still argue whether the imperial bureaucracy served the people or preserved itself above all. But the depth of its records remains uncontested. Some archives contain family registries stretching back 800 years. A rarely discussed tradition in remote counties, if a clerk died while copying tax records, his apprentice was required to burn incense daily beside his brush until the ledger was completed. You wake to the sound of the millstone turning. A slow grind, steady and circular, pushed by your mother's hand. She hums a flat tune as she works. Not a song. Just a sound to fill the room. Your sister is gone again, returned to her husband's village. Your brother is already in the fields. Your father has gone to mend the fence at the southern border. That leaves the house quiet except for the grinding. You help carry water, 2 buckets at a time from the well near the edge of the path. The buckets dig into your shoulders, rope cutting into your collarbone. The well is deep. The water is warm by the time you get home. Your mother boils it. She soaks the grain, sweeps the hearth stacks, the wood. She cooks, cleans, washes, weaves, feeds the chickens, patches, clothes, carries ash to the field, pulls weeds from under the steps, and then begins again. You watch her for an hour. She does not stop. She does not sit. When she finally pauses to drink, her hands tremble slightly. She doesn't notice. Your neighbor's wife visits later that day. She carries a bundle of cotton thread and a question. Can your mother help weave a blanket before the first frost? Her own loom is broken. Your mother nods. She will begin after dinner. That night, you eat rice with boiled greens. Your mother eats last. The blanket begins. She ties the thread on the wooden frame and pulls it taut 1 string at a time. The shuttle clicks the pattern, forms the light from the fire, catches her wrist as she moves. You ask if she's tired. She says nothing. But her shoulders sag. Later, She rubs oil on your brother's knee, bruised from the harvest cart. She checks your father's back, scratched from the thorn hedges. She braids your sister's hair before her journey. She washes your cousin's shirt when he arrives unexpectedly. No one thanks her. No one forgets to ask. At night, after the fire dies, she sits beside the ashes and sews. Her eyes squint. Her fingers are slow. But she doesn't stop. The next morning, she wakes before you again. She sharpens the kitchen knife on a flat stone. She cleans the pot. She feeds the chickens. She gathers herbs. She measures flour. It repeats. Women's work never ends. There is no day of rest, no relief from the rhythm. It doesn't matter if she's sick, or sore, or silent. You remember last winter when her cough rattled the roof tiles. Still she cooked. Still she walked to the river. Still she stitched your collar back in place with red thread and heat in her cheeks. She never rests. Even during festival season, when the lanterns are lit and the dumplings are wrapped, she's still working, polishing bowls, brushing soot from doorways, burning offerings at 3 altars before dawn. She once told you a woman is not praised for surviving. She is expected to. You look at your hands. You try to help. But it's never enough. The loom creaks. The blanket grows. You touch the corner. It is warm from her skin. Your father once said your mother can stretch a single meal into 5. Your brother calls her the hearth. Your sister says she weaves time. You say nothing, but you watch, always. Historians still argue whether domestic labor in pre-modern rural China was systematically undervalued or simply accepted as invisible structure. The records are sparse, but personal letters often written by sons who later rose to office describe mothers who worked from dawn to midnight. One odd detail from a Qing household manual: women were advised to wash rice in moonlight if they wanted sons, not for superstition, simply because it gave them 1 more hour without interruption. The summer heat dulls your senses. Even the birds seem quieter. The trees stand still. The air is thick, heavy. Every breath takes effort. You walk to the market trail, a dusty road lined with stalls made of old canvas bamboo poles and worn rope. Vendors call softly, their voices hoarse from repetition. Baskets hold vegetables beginning to wilt, fish curling at the edges, and cloth fading under the sun. Among the usual crowd, a stranger stands behind a wooden crate. He's thin, with narrow eyes and sleeves rolled high. His voice is louder, confident, too confident. You stop when you hear the word money. Copper coins. He offers to exchange old copper for new, he says. Better coins, stronger ones, lighter. They shine more, worth more. He holds one up. It does shine. Too much. The coin is too round, too clean, too perfect. Someone else notices too. A man steps forward, older, gray-bearded, dressed in plain hemp. He squints at the coin, then shakes his head. It's cut, he says. Thin brass, not copper, marked wrong. Murmurs follow. The stranger claims otherwise, says he has approval, says he paid a tax on these, says nothing more. Then the constable arrives. The stranger is quiet now. The constable doesn't ask many questions. He turns the coin over in his hand, taps it against a real one. listens to the sound. Then he speaks softly. Fake. The word cuts through the air like a blade. The stranger is seized. The crate is tipped over. The coins scatter, some roll into the dust, others fall between rocks. Children dart to catch them. Their mothers pull them back. You stay still. You know what happens next. Stocks are brought from the temple gate. Wooden frames already weathered, already stained. The stranger is forced to kneel, his hands locked in place. The wooden collar is secured around his neck. His face is turned down. He doesn't protest. He'll stay there all day. By evening, his face will swell. His wrists will burn. His throat will dry. By morning, he'll be gone. Maybe fined. Maybe sent away. Maybe worse. No one asks. No one offers water. Later that week, the elders hold a meeting. They discuss counterfeit money. They remind everyone not to accept unfamiliar coins, not to exchange with outsiders, not to trade at night. You remember the coins shine. You also remember your father once tried to melt old copper coins to make a pot. It failed. The pot cracked. The coin smoke made him dizzy for days. Money has rules. You learn them early. The official coins are round with a square hole in the center. They feel heavy, smooth at the edges. You carry 3 tied with a red string, enough to buy vinegar, maybe salt, never meat. Some coins are worn so thin you can see light through them. You remember last month when a boy tried to carve a new coin from stone. He thought he could trick his uncle. It broke in 2 before it left his hand. A small crime. No punishment. Just shame. Counterfeiters get worse. You hear of a man who engraved fake seals onto wax tablets and tried to sell them as tax documents. They say his hands were burned with boiling ink. Historians still argue whether counterfeiters were driven by desperation or ambition. In many cases, the distinction didn't matter. One curious detail found in a surviving Qing police ledger: several counterfeiters were trained as blacksmiths, but turned to coin molding because it paid more. Until it didn't. That evening, you return to the market trail. The crate is gone. The stall is empty. But the dust still shines where the coins fell. You do not pick them up. You walk home, empty-handed. It happens one afternoon quietly, without warning. You're gathering dry kindling near the outer patties when you hear a voice behind you, casual, low, half-laughing. I see the Emperor's grain never makes it this far. You freeze. The man is young, maybe your age, face thin from travel clothing, travel worn but neat. He carries a bundle slung across his back, the fabric tied with official knots, the kind only clerks or runners use. You glance around. No one else is nearby. He doesn't look like an official. But you know better than to judge by appearances. You say nothing. He steps closer, still smiling. Too many mouths. Too little millet. You nod cautiously. The kind of nod that doesn't agree or disagree. Just acknowledgement. He shrugs and keeps walking. You finish collecting twigs and return home. But the words cling to your thoughts. That night you sit beside your father under the porch. You mention what you heard. Repeat it exactly. Your father stops chewing. He looks at you, then at the darkness, then back at you. And he says quietly, don't repeat that. Later, as the fire dies, you hear him telling your mother. Her voice rises tight with concern. She asks if anyone else heard. He says he doesn't think so. The conversation ends. But something's changed. For the next few days, the village seems sharper. Not louder, just more alert. People speak with care. Eyes drift toward the temple steps where proclamations are posted. The constable walks the path more often than usual. Then a new scroll appears. It's brief, a single paragraph carefully written. Those who speak false of the throne of its harvests, or decrees, or who repeat unverified speech intended to discredit the sovereign's will shall be questioned, and if found insincere, punished according to the relevant codes. No signature, just the seal of the magistrate. A faded red square pressed hard into the parchment. You read it once. Then again. You remember the man's words. You say nothing. The elders gather to discuss the scroll. No decisions are made. Just reminders report what you hear. Correct what you repeat. Be cautious. Someone mentions the name of a boy in a village to the south. Spoke carelessly about tax increases. Was taken away before breakfast. Never returned. The room falls quiet. Afterward, your brother whispers that people used to say the emperor listens through birds, that sparrows repeat your secrets, that cranes carry rumors to court. You laugh once, but not loudly. That week, no one speaks of the grain shortage, even though the harvest is worse than last year, even though the village mill has been silent for days. You learn to say, "There was enough rain. We'll make it through. The emperor's wisdom endures." You speak those words often. They pass easily through your teeth. But at night, when the wind slips between the walls, you remember the man's tone. You never saw him again. No one else mentions him. Maybe he was a traveler. Maybe he was something else. It doesn't matter now. Historians still argue whether speech laws in Imperial China were enforced evenly across provinces or wielded selectively by local officials. Surviving documents from the Song and Ming periods list dozens of recorded seditious phrases, some as short as 3 characters. A marginal note in one 15th century court record suggests that village teachers sometimes taught safe phrases alongside calligraphy short responses designed to deflect imperial suspicion. The days grow shorter. The air turns cool. A haze settles low over the hills, blurring the line between morning and dusk. You pull your shirt tighter as you walk to the temple gate. Today, the name carved last season has faded to a soft blur, just like the face behind it. But a new name is spoken aloud. A eunuch from the capital has arrived. Not to your village exactly, but nearby at the district seat. Close enough that the name is passed from mouth to mouth, each retelling quieter than the last. His arrival draws interest and silence in equal parts. You hear it first from a traveling merchant. He stopped to mend a wheel. Ate pickled cabbage in exchange for a story. They say he has 30 servants. Never speaks above a whisper. His seal weighs more than a child. A boy asks what a eunuch is. The merchant coughs. Changes the subject. Later, your uncle older, once conscripted to the southern border, explains it plainly. Eunuchs are men who serve the palace. They have no families, no heirs, no distractions. That's the idea. They belong to the emperor, entirely. He says the higher their position, the less they say. But their influence stretches far into temples, warehouses, tax routes, even personnel decisions. Especially personnel, he adds. You remember that your magistrate was replaced quickly last spring. No reason given, no one asked. The eunuch in question oversees salt routes and grain allocations. That's what the merchant says. Which means your rice, your pickled vegetables, your fermented bean paste, all could change depending on the angle of his fan and the patience of his horses. You've never met a eunuch, but you know the marks: smooth speech, hands that never touch mud, a smile that means nothing. Your cousin, back from his exam attempt, says eunuchs can't hold official office. Not technically, but they advise. Suggest. Influence. That's worse, because you can't argue with suggestion. If an official punishes you, you can appeal to someone higher. But if a eunuch whispers your name to the wrong ear, there is no record, no recourse, just disappearance. Once a man from 2 villages away claimed he was passed over for a teaching post because a eunuch disapproved of his poetry. Not the message, just the rhythm. He was never hired. Now he sharpens farming tools. Another man was said to be mocked at court for his accent. A eunuch laughed once. That was enough. His grain shipment was rerouted the next season. Laughter carries weight. Your father says eunuchs weren't always powerful. In some dynasties they were barely trusted. In others they managed entire ministries. Depends on the emperor's mood, he says. You wonder what kind of man controls so many without ever raising his voice. That night your mother burns a stick of incense for protection, not against spirits, against politics. She places it by the door, lets it smolder in silence. You don't ask questions. 2 days later, a scroll arrives at the temple. It's short. A new inspector will be visiting soon, from the capital, sent by the Ministry of Rights. No one says the word eunuch, but no one needs to. The message is clear. You sweep the front path 3 times. Your father polishes the stone well cap. Your brother patches the lean-to roof. Your sister ties her hair with an older ribbon one with fewer threads fraying. Preparation without instruction, just in case. The inspector never arrives. Or maybe he did, and no one noticed. But the silence afterward is louder than his presence would have been. Historians still argue whether eunuchs' influence in late imperial administration was accidental or strategic. Some rose by favor, others through the void left by weak ministers. A lesser-known practice in palace records: eunuchs were often required to keep dream journals. If a dream seemed auspicious, it might influence policy. If troubling the eunuch, could be reassigned, sometimes immediately. The air smells of incense and boiled chicken. Someone has died. You wake to the slow beat of the death drum, a hollow rhythm that sounds like footsteps through fog. It comes from the east side of the village near the bend in the river. You recognize the beat. It's for an elder. Not too fast, not too soft. You go as expected. Everyone does. The house is draped in white cloth. Thin banners hang from the lintels. Paper charms flutter in the breeze. They're printed with words meant to guide the soul across the river of forgetting. The man who died was old. You remember him mostly by the cough he had in winter, and the way he sliced turnips with one hand. He lived quietly. worked slowly, slept early. Now he is still. Inside the house, his body lies on a raised board covered in straw mats. His head faces west. His hands are folded over his chest. His mouth is closed with a coin under the tongue, just enough for the journey. His children bow 3 times. Then again. Then kneel for hours. The priest arrives before noon. His robe is yellow, the hem frayed. His voice is soft but practiced. He lights a bundle of incense and circles the body 3 times, chanting names no one else remembers. Someone brings firecrackers. They are small, folded tightly in red paper strung together with twine. They are set near the door and lit. The popping cracks through the silence, waking birds startling a dog and sending a brief wave of smoke over the mourners. The priest nods. That's the point, to scare away the spirits that linger, or the ones that wait. Later paper horses are burned folded creatures with inked eyes and ribboned manes. They curl and blacken in the flames, turning into ash before they fully collapse. You smell straw and glue. You're handed a small bowl of boiled chicken and sticky rice. Everyone eats. It's part of the ritual. The chicken is soft, the broth oily. You chew in silence, eyes lowered. The coffin is nailed shut in the afternoon. 3 nails. 1 for the past, 1 for the name, 1 for the silence. It is carried by 6 men, neighbors, cousins, sons. They walk slow, knees, stiff eyes forward. The priest walks ahead, chanting again. A boy rings a bell at every step. You join the procession. It winds down the slope past the dry fields through the stone arch near the bamboo grove. The grave is waiting. Just a rectangle dug deep. Nothing carved. No marker yet. The coffin is lowered with ropes that creak with strain. A small bundle of rice and a half-burned incense stick are dropped in afterward. The first shovel of dirt is always silent. Only after the 3rd does anyone speak again. That evening you help carry mats back to the family's home. You wash your hands in river water. You sprinkle salt behind your heels to keep away wandering souls. You do not look back. At home, your mother boils herbs to cleanse the air. Your father leaves an extra bowl of rice near the door just in case the elder's spirit forgets which way to go. Your brother sleeps early. You lie on your mat and stare at the thatched roof. It is quiet. The death drum does not beat again. Historians still argue whether village funeral rites in Imperial China were shaped more by Taoist ritual or folk tradition. In practice, they blended both, plus family custom and local adaptation. A recorded detail from a southern village account, some families burned miniature paper bureaucrats alongside the horses so the deceased wouldn't be delayed by office lines in the afterlife. The wind shifts again, colder now. It moves down from the northern plains, bringing with it a thin haze of dust and dry air that cracks your lips and reddens your hands. You rise early to fetch water, and the bucket handle bites your fingers with every step. It's the season of migration. Not of people most villagers never leave, but of stories. Tales brought from travelers, rumors passed between traders, quiet talk near temple gates. This one is different. The wall. They say it stretches like a spine over mountains, disappears into valleys, follows no path but its own. You've heard about it before, of course. Everyone has. But this time, a man arrives who has seen it. He's a charcoal burner's son. Worked near the border, paid to carry bricks, haul water breakstones. You meet him while trading rope. He says it isn't what you think. He says it's not meant to keep enemies out. Not really. More to keep people in. You frown. He explains. If you're on the wrong side, without papers, without reason, you're sent back. If you try to climb it, you're watched. If you carve your name on it, you're whipped. It isn't a line of defense. It's a command. Still, he talks of the height. Tall enough to hide the sun at dusk. Wide enough to ride a cart along the top. Guards who sleep on roofs. Watchtowers every few miles. Wind that never stops. He says men die building it, not in war, just from lifting, from dust, from falling. You believe him. He pulls back a sleeve and shows a scar from a stone that slipped. He was lucky. Another man didn't get up. You listen. You imagine it. In your mind, the wall cuts across the world. Not a protector, but a presence. A thing too large to question, too permanent to ignore. You ask if it worked. He shrugs. There are still raids, he says. But the Emperor can't say he didn't try. Then he leaves. Later that night, your brother wonders aloud what it would be like to see it, to touch the stones, to stand on the edge of the Empire and look out. Your father shakes his head. It's not for us. You know what he means. You weren't born to guard the wall, or build it, or even visit. It's not a place for your feet. It's for officials, for soldiers, for men with names written in clean calligraphy on folded scrolls. You sit outside and look north toward the horizon you'll never reach. The stars flicker above the bamboo grove. Your mother calls you inside. You go, and you sleep. Historians still argue whether the Great Wall functioned as military defense or political symbol. In practical terms, it was both deterrent and declaration. A peculiar note from a border governor's journal. Some workers believed bricks used in the wall absorbed the souls of the laborers who died laying them. At night, they claimed the stones whispered. Now dim the lights, soften the breath, let the rhythm slow. You've walked the paddy paths, felt the bite of the rope, the weight of water, the tremble of the night wind through a thatched wall. You've watched incense curl toward rafters, seen red string fade in sunlight, knelt at the edge of an altar for gods whose names no one writes anymore. The seasons passed. The drums rang out. A rooster clucked in an open doorway. You lived with cold, porridge-cracked earth-quiet rules. You saw the constable's rod, heard the bells before a funeral, felt the hush of 1,000 rules carried in the folds of robes never meant for you. And still you worked. Still you knelt. Still you waited for rain. Let that world drift now. Let the echoes flatten. Let the whispers and smoke and carved names recede. Just a thread of incense remains. Let it burn slowly. Let it dim. Let it end.